Lord Monckton is our guest. He is going to Copenhagen. I just talked to him. He's going to be gracious enough to give us a report from Copenhagen. This is just amazing. This is a short segment, long segment coming up to get into plenty of information, but I don't want to just skip over the fact that global warming, man-made global warming is meant to destroy industrial society, as Maurice Strong has said. Sir, can you go over just briefly some of the evidence of what this will do? From their own words, they want to shut down the industrial society and have a global government, in their own words, as Van Rompuy had just said last week, the new EU chief, to bring in global governance where this group of bureaucrats become the new kings and queens over a giant tyranny.
That's exactly what the aim has been. So Maurice Strong, who was a Canadian bureaucrat at the UN 25 years ago, it was he who decided that setting up the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change as a political body rather than a scientific one would be the Trojan horse by which the UN could achieve its long-held ambition of turning itself into a dictatorial world government. And a few weeks ago, thanks to a very diligent scientist called Willie Soon at the Harvard-Smithsonian Institute for Astrophysics, I was able to get hold of an advanced copy of the draft Treaty of Copenhagen, which I'm going to go to Copenhagen to try to negotiate away next week. But there'll be 200 countries there, 250 UN bureaucracies, different bureaucracies will be there, let alone how many bureaucrats in each bureaucracy. A huge jamboree. And in the draft treaty, it said they were going to set up a world government. The word government actually appears in the treaty in this context for the first time that I've ever seen it, and I've negotiated quite a few of these treaties in the past. And it's going to give this government the power to control all formerly free markets, a point which Van Rompuy, the new dictator of Europe, has also just said. He doesn't want free markets anymore, he wants it regulated. And that's what they're going to do to markets all around the world, all in the name of saving the planet from a problem we know is no longer a real problem.
Well, that's what Ban Ki-moon said in the New York Times 3 weeks ago. He said the UN will control world resources and a global government.
That's exactly their ambition. They want nothing less than total world domination, to use the old phrase, and rather than doing it by going to war, as they would have had to in the old days, like Alexander of Macedon or Adolf Hitler or Napoleon, all these people with more ambitions than taste, they want to do it by a bureaucratic, stealthy coup d'etat. What they did was they hid this draft treaty as an annex to a two-page note by the Secretariat of the Conference of the States Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, buried on a UN website. That's where Willie Soon, who reads everything, thank heavens, found it. He saw it, sent it straight to me, and I discovered in the annex to this note 186 pages of a draft treaty, which they had kept secret by putting it openly on a website but burying it as an annex without saying it was there. So that when they had eventually pushed this treaty through, they were going to turn round with looks of surprise on their faces and say, what do you mean we hadn't published it? It's been on our website for weeks. That's the sort of game these shabby people play to try to trick us into giving up our freedom, our democracy, and our prosperity. And, of course, the U.S. Constitution would be made subject to this new treaty. If this treaty is signed by Obama, even if the Senate doesn't ratify it, and I don't think the Senate now will, because I've been into the Senate and talked to several senators, and I said, you sign this, it's over the dead body of the American Constitution. Don't do it. And I don't think they will. I've spoken to several of them now. The trouble is, though, that Obama might just say, well, I have signed this treaty using my executive authority as president, and I am either going to enact it into domestic law by a simple majority of both houses as an ordinary domestic law, or I'm going to go to the Supreme Court and say, look, the trend of law is towards global governance and dictatorship now. Democracy has had its day, and the Supreme Court, as at present constituted, which hates democracy with a passionate and abiding loathing, will go along with him, I fear, and grant him his wish. So the important thing is that when he goes to Copenhagen, we have to do everything in our power to try to stop him signing the American Constitution and your freedom and your democracy away. Because if your freedom goes down the pan, then so does the freedom of the rest of the world.
Well said. And many members of the Supreme Court have said they want global government, and USA Today that we should follow the orders of the UN. So we are in grave danger. We now see the European treaty being implemented by stealth, not letting the British people have a vote. And Obama's saying he's going to use the federal bureaucracy to implement by piecemeal many parts of these global treaties. Schwarzenegger is banning and taxing television sets over their carbon footprint. So it appears that they're trying to force this, even if they can't do it legislatively. Lord Christopher Monckton is our guest. He is the 3rd Viscount Monckton of Brenchley. We're going to come right back.